Well, it's the top of the hour, and we have a pretty good list of registrants, so we'll give it a few more minutes. It's maybe holiday week for everyone. Everyone's either super busy trying to take time off or already gearing down and having time off. So hopefully we'll have a few others join. Good afternoon. This is Meredith, who joined.
This is Roseanne.
Hi, Roseanne. We have a fair list of registrants, so we're just giving it a minute or two to allow time for others to join. Right now we have Betsy from New West on the phone, as well as Inka and myself. So hopefully we'll get a few more people here, and we'll get started and still commit to ending on time. Roseanne, will you be joining the WebEx today?
Yeah, I've got it on.
Okay. So there we go. I just didn't have my participant list ended. So while we're waiting for others to join, Roseanne and Betsy, do you want to do a quick update with how things are going with your program right now, if you're having any particular successes or challenges?
This is Roseanne. Regarding marketing, we met with our marketing person at the hospital and are working on some new marketing materials to use with our physicians. So hopefully sometime next year we'll be able to start putting those into practice.
That's great. Good to hear.
So this is Betsy, and just, with the new standards, trying to make that, get that all straightened up and cleaned up in between patient care. Our ASR is due in March, so we'd be in pretty good shape by the time. And I think a lot of it's just verbiage, but, still trying to make sure all of our stuff is updated.
And Betsy, thank you. What are some ways that we could support you and other DSME programs with the 2017 standards? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, yeah. I think that, we're ADA recognized, and I think we got a nice email, laying out what we need to do. So I'll let you know if I feel like, we're kind of just now getting into it. It's a little bit slower right now because of the holidays, and so it's giving me an opportunity to kind of, straighten things out. But I haven't come across anything yet.
Okay. Yes, please feel free to send me some ideas, and that's my role here, is I can do webinars, I can do information handouts, kind of just
okay, great, thank you.
For you all and navigating those new standards.
Wonderful.
Good afternoon. I've heard a few other beeps. If you haven't had a chance to introduce yourself, would you mind letting us know who's joined?
Hey, this is Jana Hartig from over at Denver Health.
Hi, Jana.
Hey.
And this is Jean from Penrose in Colorado Springs.
Great. Hi, Jean.
Jane,
all right. Well,
Dana, are you going to be joining us through the WebEx or just on the phone today?
I have it on the computer too.
Dana.
Yeah, I'm working on bringing it up.
Okay, perfect. Because this is going to send you the PDF so you can follow along.
Okay, I'll keep you posted.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Well, in the spirit of closing on time, we'll go ahead and get started. So we are in session 6 today of the business plan guide for DSME programs, and we'll be diving into the operations plan part 1 today.
So I just wanted to welcome you all, and I'm sure we all know what the purpose of these calls are, but just to highlight that, due to the low prevalence of diabetes education amongst Coloradans affected by diabetes, really the primary purpose of these sharing calls is to partner with you all and discuss barriers to DSME utilization, share successes, and identify tools that may be helpful in increasing DSME utilization throughout the state. And so this call is intended for audiences of ABA recognized or ABE accredited, although if they're not, our program staff are more than welcome to stay.
Thank you, Inka. And this is Meredith with Intelligence. So we have a diabetes care contract with Medicare all around increasing access and utilization of diabetes self-management education. So glad to be able to partner with Inka throughout the state on these efforts. And thank you for joining us today. So with the DSME business plan, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this either since most of you have been with us in the past, but just a reminder that the business plan guide there that you see in the bottom right-hand corner of this slide is what we're focusing on just in an effort to break it into smaller bite-sized pieces. So if your program hasn't had the opportunity to either create or update your DSME business plan, that this all is a mechanism to hear from your peers and do this in bite-sized pieces. That's what our focus is for these webinars. Sorry, my computer seems to be having a bit of a time delay here today. And are you seeing the slides okay on your end? Okay.
So just a reminder. Did you want to go over this?
No, sorry, go ahead.
Just a reminder for housekeeping, we are recording this call as well as the presentation, and so you'll get those in the call notes that I send out a few weeks after, and they're also all located on the website. Just a reminder, if you want to mute and unmute yourself, please do *6. Don't place your phone on hold because some people have hold music. And so if you just need to drop off, you can just hang up and call back in. When speaking, just state your name first, please, and so we know who's speaking. We really want these calls to be in-depth in sharing, so step up and step back as needed. And then if you prefer to use the chat as a way to share questions or comments, you can use the chat feature as well. And that's about it for housekeeping.
Thank you, Inka. So for those of you that are joining us on WebEx, we like to see where you're at. If you can click on the pen icon on the upper left-hand corner of your screen. Once you left-click on that, you'll get an arrow. Left-click there, and then drag your arrow and click to where you are located. And I see on our participant list that Mary, you joined us, so welcome today. Good to have you on the call.
Thank you.
right.
So the objective for our sharing call today is to identify how the operations plan and the business guide aligns with the 2017 DSMES national standards. So we're going to review some examples of progress notes, because this is one part of your operations plan, and then how you use your progress notes to share information back to the referring primary care provider.
So we always want to make sure that we're hearing from you all, and we like to do that via our polling questions. Results, if you weren't able to join us last month, we asked about how you all are doing with the DSME business plan, and we were happy to see that a handful of you have actually started a new DSME business plan or are in the process of updating that. So that was good to hear. So for today, our polling question is if you would indicate if the current state of your DSME program's documentation, such as referral forms, progress notes, patient chart notes, internal communication forms, etc., is that currently working great for your purposes and you don't really feel a need to update, or you've had a recent review and revisions have already been made? Second option is they're okay, but we've identified some areas for improvement. Maybe there's duplication, updates needed, irrelevant information, tedious documentation. Or last option is you feel like you might need a complete overhaul of forms and documentation. So if you would open that poll up, click on the appropriate answer, and don't forget to click on your submit button. And do we have any of you on the phone that aren't on the WebEx that want to share the current state of your documentation? All right. So those of us not answering, that includes Inka and I. So it definitely looks like most of you feel like they're okay, but there might be some areas for improvement. So good framing for today's conversation. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Inka.
Great. So I want to first share just a couple of opportunities coming up. One of the objectives I mentioned was the 2017 national standards, and I'm going to send a chat to you all. CDC, in conjunction with the University of North Carolina, is doing a webinar January 16th from 2:30 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, so that would be 12:30 Mountain Time, on the 2017 national standards for DSMES. And so it's free, and so I just wanted to present that opportunity for you all as this is coming down the line that all of our programs are going to have to meet the standards by May of 2018. And so that link is available there if you want to go ahead and register. So with that, I wanted to just highlight standard number 7, which is individualization. I felt like this kind of aligned as I was reading through the operations plan with the progress notes. And so this is a requirement that you are doing an assessment and following up with your individual patients on their individual DSMES plan. So I just, this is just the standard, the highlighted section. And then I also will share with you, if you don't have them, the 2017 standards, so you can see all 10 of them. Any questions at all? And so we provided with 2 examples, and so either if you have the opportunity to download them when you signed in for the WebEx event, also at the top of your screen, to the left of the PowerPoint presentation, you'll see 2 tabs, DSME education. So there's 2 progress notes that we wanted to share with you that come from Marianne from Dordowitz, who's a national expert in billing and reimbursement. And so her main message is really to standardize your progress notes. And so the 2 examples we provided you with is, one of them is 1 sheet for multiple visits, and then the other one is a sheet per visit. So it's really kind of what your process and system is at your program, what would work best for you. So my first question is, what does your program currently use? I wanted to share.
This is Roseanne, and we actually use what do you call it, a web-based electronic medical record specific to our program. It's called DiaWeb, and so our progress notes go in there, and they include some of the things that you have listed there, like, for example, weight and medications and, you know, the fact that we've done a medication reconciliation, you know, that type of thing, and as well as a narrative to what was covered at each particular visit.
Great, and you answered my second question, is that how is it linked to your EHR? So thank you, Roseanne. Anyone else like to share how they use progress notes? What do you currently use?
This is Jana here from Denver Health, and our EHR is Epic, and so we have the capability of loading preset templates into the EHR, so that way our coaches, you know, have the general information from each class or each visit, and then they can add the individual notes for each participant, you know, sort of at the end of that template.
Great.
This is Yvonne in Trinidad. We have some templates on our EHR, and right now we're in the process of going to the AADE 7 system, which has the ability to have progress notes. That's kind of where we're at.
Thank you, Yvonne. Anyone else like to share what they're currently using?
This is Mary O'Gara, still using a narrative format that then gets scanned and put into our electronic record.
And how does that information get sent back to the primary care provider as a feedback loop?
Well, once it goes into the electronic record, it gets sent through the system directly to the other doc's EMR, or it might go as a fax to the direct physician if they're not on an EMR that talks with our system.
And is that for everyone else as well on the phone? It gets a message is sent back to the provider?
This is Roseanne. We actually send ours directly, either fax or mail, the notes to the physician as opposed to it coming through to the EMR.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Janie here. We're lucky we're a closed system, so our physicians are already in the same EMR, and so we can actually just copy them on any of our notes that we make.
And do you all have a written procedure on this process of how notes are written and uploaded, or is it something that's just passed on verbally, or?
This is Susie here. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Mary O'Gara, ours is within our curriculum. The notes then get put into the system, so it's written that a note goes in after each visit.
And this is Jamie. We have standardized workflows that are available. That way, if any new coaches get hired or, if there's staff turnover, they have that reference for exactly what needs to be documented and how often it needs to be documented.
Do you find that all of your processes work? The type of progress note that you have and getting the information back to the provider, person that's doing it, or is it something that you need to focus your attention on?
This is Roseanne. We've gotten feedback in the past that the physicians claim that they never receive anything from us, which doesn't make any sense because we send it to them. And so there seems to be a problem on their end, of getting the information that we send into the patient's chart. So I don't know if anybody else has that problem, but that's been one of our problems is that we're sending it after every visit, but it seems to in some practices not be getting into the patient's record.
Anyone else can share kind of a similar experience, and if so, were you able to resolve it?
This is Meredith, and I'm curious, do you ever get communication from the physician once they've accessed those notes, or if there are questions, do you typically find that you need to reach out to them?
This is Roseanne. If we have requested something of them, then we will get communication back. So, for example, if we've recommended a change to an insulin regimen or something like that, then we do get feedback from them. But if it's just simply reporting that they've attended class or something like that where we're not needing some approval or such, then we don't necessarily hear back from them.
Sorry, I was going to ask real quick in regards to that. Then when you say that the physicians have stated that they never received information, is that in instances where you're needing something from them or where it's more of just FYI for their records?
More the FYI. Usually if we're needing something from someone, we will fax and call. And so those things are more likely to get processed. I think it's the ones where we're sending general information, for hopefully the patient's record that then, we're getting feedback that they're not receiving it.
Okay. Sorry, Dana, go ahead. You had something to add.
I was going to say that we have a similar experience. So generally, unless we're making a request for glucometers or notifying the physicians of, medication updates or anything like that, I think generally we don't receive too much feedback just from the notes alone.
It makes me think, Roseanne, and I'll have to get back to you on a quality improvement part of the standards that could fall under that. Think through some ways to problem solve that piece of it. And I think about one activity I learned about the 5 whys. So I'll have to get back to you because it's a little bit muddy in my mind right now, which may be just a potential way to find the root cause of why they're not getting and you may have already done that, so I apologize if it's something you've already explored, but I'm happy to, on the side, offline, talk more about that with you.
Yeah, I'm very interested in any suggestions that you could offer.
Looking at the progress notes from Marianne, do you all feel like your progress notes cover, not to say that her progress notes are the end-all be-all, but just looking through it, do you feel like you've covered all of the bases on your progress notes, or is there anything that stands out? You're like, oh, I hadn't considered having that on my progress note, or anything that you see that you would adopt?
This is Vivian. I think that's very comprehensive, and I like the checkoff box. I think it would be nice to include more of that type of thing in our notes.
And if you haven't had a chance to really look at them, I'm happy to email you all these in a separate email if you hadn't had a chance to download them when you signed into the webinar. Another question I had in mind, which is, I'm drawing a blank actually now that I'm saying it out loud. Does anyone, thinking through Standard 7 and the individualization, do you see overlap in the progress note and that standard and meeting that requirement for your program?
This is Amelia here. What I see is in Horowitz's stuff is that, it's all acronyms and check boxes. Well, I mean, how individual is that? I mean, I could look at this record and say, a monkey could do it. I mean, it's not individualized at all. It's like checking boxes. I got audited by ADA, and the lady said that if I died, somebody could take over on my chart easily because I do narratives. And I think the issue with narratives is it takes an hour to do a chart. But with a checkbox, you could do it in 2 minutes, but it's certainly not individualized in my opinion.
What do you think is missing, just having that narrative box to write?
Well, I think what's missing is I have no idea what, is this person emotionally afraid? Is it, are they dealing with a disabled son? Things, is depression overlaying all these issues of trying to take care of diabetes. So in a checkbox narrative versus narrative, there's no comparison.
Thank you for bringing that, Mary. She actually has another one that covers that, so I appreciate you calling that out because I missed that part. So I will send that as an additional attachment as well. So thank you for calling that out.
And on the specific example on the screen, I recognize it's a little hard to follow because you can't fit the entire note on the screen that you're seeing. Probably what's intended by the other text boxes with, some space for that, although there's definitely not a lot of space for narrative, so it still has to be fairly succinct and brief, but definitely a good point. And Jana, I'm interested with your electronic health record. Do you feel like it follows more of that template style, or is it such that you have the opportunity to document in templates as well as have as much narrative as you need?
Yeah, so I think we do a little bit of both. So there is like the standardized, what did we go over in class today? It has that list and of topics covered, and then our coaches can add and delete from that as needed. And then there's also a section where they can put in class, participant seems really engaged, or participant seems distant, or participants seem to grasp the concept of glucose monitoring well. They can do a little bit more of that individualized, so that way when, if the PCP happens to look back, they can see how this patient did and what what seems to be a sticking point for them, if there were any.
I think what's frustrating to me is, are the physicians even reading this stuff? And so the idea that I spend an hour on my narrative, yeah, right, I die, somebody can take over. I mean, I've asked our physicians before, and they sometimes say yes, and sometimes they say no. So that's why it's frustrating, and I can see why people go to a checkbox.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, even with our EHR, it should be really easy for physicians to find notes, and we try and copy them on as many notes as possible without making it, overbearing the amount of information that's coming in. But we do still get feedback from physicians that say, like, I don't know where to find this note. I don't know where to look for it. I haven't, or they're asking for feedback about class and they haven't read the note. So, I think it's hard to please all different styles that are out there.
Definitely. So thank you all for your great feedback. And just to give you an idea of what we'll do with this information, you've heard us talk about the fact that we're planning an in-person event spring of next year, and we are planning on bringing Marianne out for that. And so based on the feedback we're getting from you, we'll attempt to set up the agenda for that day with some tools and discussions that can really help some of these specific challenges. So I need to be aware of time. We are at 12:30 already, so we need to wrap up the call. Next time will be part 2 of the operations plan, where we'll talk a little bit more about optimizing electronic health records. We are still offering the calls at both 8:30 and noon, and always know that you can join the call that you didn't sign up for if it ends up that the time just doesn't work out for the particular time that you registered for. Data sources, always as a reminder, and we will, once you close out, that survey will come up from WebEx if you can take that, but also know that Inka and I will be sending some follow-up documents with the call materials, one of which is the 2017 national standards that we've referenced. The second is a newly released document from the American Diabetes Association that is the standards of medical care and diabetes, specifically for hospitals. So if any of you are interested in that.
And I just added those resources in the chat box as well, if you quickly wanted to download those. Perfect. Thank you, Inka. Inka, anything else that I missed before we close out for the day? No, continue to provide us feedback on how we can make these sharing calls useful to you all. So please take the survey and always feel free to email Meredith and I with any questions or feedback. So happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you
again, Meredith. Happy holidays.
You're welcome. Thank you.